Hey everyone, me Kevin here. By now, it's very likely that you've already heard that Donald Trump tested positive for COVID-19 along with First Lady Melania Trump following news that earlier today, White House aide Hope Hicks had tested positive. In this video, I'm going to break down my expectations for what this means for the stock market and the election going forward. Hope Hicks, by the way, had flown with the president as recently as October 1st and was pictured without a mask boarding the plane. The same day, Donald Trump also tested positive. On board the plane were the following individuals: Melania Trump, she has also tested positive already, Representative Jim Jordan in the House of Representatives, Alice Marie Johnson, Robert O'Brien, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., Kimberly Guilfoyle, Eric Trump, Lara Trump, Tiffany Trump, Derek Lyons, Bill Stepien, Jason Miller, Kayleigh McEnany, Gabby Hurt, Dan Scavino, and Stephen Miller. And immediately following news of this COVID outbreak, we have the Dow futures and, well, all futures down and the VIX volatility index up. Now, first, let's talk about what this means for the market and the election, and then we'll talk about what we should do about this. I'll leave the futures up just for a moment so we could see this. First, uncertainty. Investors hate uncertainty and instability, and folks, this is both. The risk of dying from COVID in your 70s is 6.08% per advisory.com. And even just this slight chance does have the effect of increasing the chances of a Biden victory, which some believe may be associated with lower stock prices. However, economists have already debunked that a Democratic win would cause the stock market to crash, mostly because generally the stock market moves with the trajectory of the broader market despite a Democratic or Republican election. I made a complete video breaking this down on its own, so I'm going to take that conclusion and talk about that in this video, but if you want to see that complete video with the research and where that came from, I will link that video down below. Instead, right now we have to focus on the fact that the revelation that Donald Trump has tested positive is very likely to create at least 2 weeks of mass uncertainty. And we're going to go through a time frame here in just a moment. But keep this in mind. If Donald Trump's condition worsens over the next 14 days, it is very likely that the market will drop even more than we're just seeing now, which is about a 1.5% to 2% decline in stock futures trading. This is all, in my opinion, going to be condition dependent. The prospects of a prolonged illness that could potentially delay the likelihood of pushing the election back past November 3rd will continue and will enhance uncertainty in the market and prolong that uncertainty. It's too soon, obviously, to know how this Trump diagnosis will affect any kind of actual operations. How will this affect stimulus? How will this affect what Congress is doing? It's too soon to know these things. It's going to be very condition dependent. Certainly, we would expect some debates to be rescheduled and some rallies to be canceled. Donald Trump has already canceled in-person events. These are natural things that probably won't make that much of a difference. However, if Donald Trump's condition worsens, that's when I expect we will see much more drama. And in order to have a similar expectation here, we can try to go back to, well, a similar leader having COVID, Boris Johnson. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom seemed to match a 14-day time frame for his stint with the coronavirus. Boris Johnson is 18 years younger than Donald Trump, and Boris Johnson was first COVID positive on March 27th. By April 6th, he was in the hospital, and there were fears that Boris Johnson was going to end up on a ventilator because he went into the ICU. And folks, if that happens, if we follow that path, the Boris Johnson path, within just 1 week of Boris Johnson falling ill or becoming COVID positive, then I expect a lot of drama in the stock market. By April 12th, Boris Johnson had recovered, fortunately. However, these are very, very intense weeks that we now have coming up. And the fact of the matter is this: the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the first thing that we heard out of the United Kingdom for the first week was all is good. The Prime Minister has mild symptoms, but he's expected to make a full recovery. We heard reassuring messages, and folks, I believe between now and Monday, my expectation will be the same. We will hear at Pennsylvania Avenue exactly what we heard from Downing Street. Everything is fine, no need to panic, we've got control of everything, Trump is still at the reins, everything is continuing as normal, Trump and Melania are just quarantining. That's the expectation. But folks, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week is when we'll be at day 5, day 6. That is potentially where we want to mark our calendars and pay specific attention and maybe go risk off on our portfolios. because there might be even more volatility on those days in the event that Trump and Melania experience not just symptoms, because right now they're asymptomatic, but worse or heavier symptoms. Now, everybody doesn't follow the same COVID trajectory. It's quite possible that Trump and Melania could be asymptomatic for the next 2 weeks and everything goes back to normal. Great, wonderful. However, it's also possible that they're asymptomatic for the next 10 days and then they have heavier symptoms. We have no idea. They're all going to respond differently. But my expectation is, based on averages, we're most likely to see most volatility around Trump's condition between Tuesday and probably Thursday of next week. If Trump's condition worsens then, we're going to see a substantial move in the stock market. So be prepared for that. Also, if you have a lot of margin outstanding, you might want to start taking a little bit of your emergency money and starting to pay that down so you can be prepared to ride the bumpy wave. I personally do believe that, given Donald Trump's age, and I understand the odds, this might not be easy for Trump. Now, again, the chances of him passing away, statistically, 6.08%. The fact that he's the president, probably has access to medical care that a lot of us can't afford, probably say the odds are even lower. But it's the uncertainty over the next week that we want to pay attention to. Now, certainly, what we should always do as humans is wish somebody well who is ill. And that's what we need to do. But in this video, we're not focused on politics. We are focused on stocks and what this means for the election and what this means for stimulus. So let's go in order. Number one, stocks. I've kind of just broken this down, but what I want you to keep in mind is if you're thinking, okay, this is a buying opportunity, be prepared. Keep some dry powder ready in the event we have worse news next week. I would expect substantially more volatility next week because the world panicked when we heard that Boris Johnson was in the ICU. Boris Johnson is 18 years younger than Donald Trump. Regarding the election, if Donald Trump has an extended stint or an extended experience with COVID-19, it is possible, in my opinion, that the election could be delayed. Now, probably not long, but it's possible that we could see the election move to November 10th, November 17th, or some sort of other date. After all, the United States and our citizens were expecting another couple debates, and the reality is Trump's going to have to well and fully recover to be capable of engaging in another debate. After all, without the opportunity for Trump to have debates, it is very likely that any results of the election, if it continues to be held on November 3rd, will fall into question. But obviously, time will tell. Now, regarding stimulus, what does this mean for stimulus? Obviously, way too soon to know. The stock market is tentatively awaiting a stimulus deal. Perhaps this will continue to encourage moving a stimulus deal along. It certainly does not hurt a stimulus bill, but this doesn't mean that we want to wish that people get COVID to get a stimulus check. We're just talking facts in this video. The reality is that the fact that the entire White House administration could potentially now have COVID might increase the chances of seeing a stimulus package. Certainly when we consider the fact that Donald Trump has already asked Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows to increase their offers for stimulus. But keep in mind, Mark Meadows is generally, while he's okay with a $1.5 to $1.6, $1.7 trillion stimulus package, he's generally anti-spending more. If he falls ill with COVID, my expectation is that Mark Meadows might be more tempted to say, okay, yes, we will need more stimulus. But obviously, we will have to see. At this point, we have no idea that Mark Meadows is even COVID positive. So we'll have to see what parts of the administration end up COVID positive to know how this is going to ricochet throughout our leadership. After all, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin just met with Donald Trump. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin also met with Nancy Pelosi. That means Nancy Pelosi is probably going to be on the contact list of people exposed to this potential circle. So we could literally wake up tomorrow, October 2nd, which you might be watching this on October 2nd, so you'll already know, but I would not be surprised for us to see multiple more COVID diagnoses. So my expectations, the market's going to open lower. We already know that. I mean, just take a look here at futures already. We know that the market is going to open up lower. The VIX is up 10%, the volatility index. If we get multiple more COVID positives tomorrow, which is Friday, so October 2nd, and over the weekend, then it's very likely that Monday and Tuesday are going to be painful in the stock market. If then we start hearing that people's conditions are worsening, just be prepared with some dry powder and keep yourself out of margin and be prepared. We are going to be in for a rocky road. Buckle up. I will keep you updated. Please consider subscribing if you want continued updates and my perspectives. And folks, we'll see you soon.